So my experience has been, and this is part of my advice too for people that are thinking about seminary or going to seminary, seminary can teach you maybe half of the things that you need to know for ministry, and the other half you're going to have to learn just from experience in the local church. So I think it's important to have the right expectation of seminary, what it can do for you and what it can't do for you. So about half of what I know about ministry is things that I learned outside of seminary from ministry experience. I remember my first day in regular pastoral ministry. We had a thing in our church called Pastor of the Day. So we had a multi-staff ministry, and if any question came in, there was always somebody that would be the first line of defense for any pastoral situation or question that came in. So my first day as Pastor of the Day, my first question had to do with somebody from the church who had been invited by a friend to go to another church where they were going to have a blessing for pets. And she wanted to know what my theology was of God's blessing for her dog. And needless to say, this is not something that is covered anywhere in seminary education. It's going to be something you're going to have to think of on your own. So that was my introduction to all the things that seminary cannot do for you. But I think probably the biggest thing that I've learned in ministry is that I am not capable of solving people's problems. And I think early on in pastoral ministries, people came to me with very difficult life circumstances, broken families, situations at work, just all kinds of spiritual questions that people have. It took me a while, but eventually I learned, I can't solve people's problems, and actually that's not the responsibility God's given to me either. He's given me a ministry of the Word and a ministry of prayer, and both the Word and prayer speak into people's life situation, but not in a way that really calls me as a pastor to solve their problems. So one of the questions I like to ask people when they come in for spiritual help is, what do you think that I can do to help you? And it really helps to know what their expectations are so that I can clarify whether that's an expectation that I can meet or not. And sometimes even asking that question helps people to have a realistic expectation. They realize, yeah, this pastor probably can't solve my problems any more than anybody else can. But there are things I can do. I can minister God's Word to them, and I can pray for them, and I can walk with them through the trial that they're going through. I also like to ask a question like this: how do you see God at work in this situation? What is it that you've been asking God to do? What has been most helpful to you from God's Word as you have walked through this trial? And those are questions that then help me understand where they are spiritually in their experience of God's Word, in their experience of prayer. And that gives me a starting point for helping to know how I can help them through prayer, and also where I can point them to in God's Word that may be helpful. Then just as part of this whole area of learning that I can't solve people's problems, another thing that I can do as a pastor is be part of an overall shepherding plan that's one part of God's care for them in their circumstance. They may need the help of deacons in the church. They may need professional counsel. They may need medical help. There are all kinds of things that may be important for them in addressing their life circumstances. But I can be a pastor, I can be a shepherd in the ministry of God's Word and of prayer, and I can be part of a shepherding plan to help them in their current trial.